Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hello, welcome to the Love Your Vibe podcast, also known as the Heart of Christ Ministry podcast, but now back to the Love Your Vibe podcast. I'm your host, Reverend Sean Robert Grant. Happy to be here with you today. All right, so I'm doing this on all of my podcasts. I'm going to let you know right off the bat. AI has reared its ugly head in the form of the Spreaker site that I've been using. And so for whatever reason, AI detects music. And if you've been listening to my podcast for a long time, you know that I don't use music and unless it's in the ad. But anyway, it's detecting it under whatever situation it is. It's detecting it and it's deciding that it's going to take down my podcast. So if that in the event happens and it's no longer available, what I want to do is I want to let you know that it is and will be available on my YouTube channel, which is ShaunGrant, SGrant28. You can find me there. It's me in a red shirt, headshot, smiling brightly. You can listen in if they decide to take it off all the other platforms. So I just wanted to give that to you right away. You will never stop me. No, but anyway, guys, hope all is fantastic. Thank you in advance from all around the world, the support you guys are giving me. If you would like to continue to correspond, as some of you have, please, by all means, write to us at ShaunG, ShaunG04 at gmail.com, and we will get back to you as soon as we possibly can. Thank you in advance for your interaction because it means a lot. So with that being said, let's get into today's message from the Love Your Vibe podcast. Making decisions emotions free. Now, I understand just like the next person how important emotions are, but emotions have their time and their place, okay? Emotions are used as navigators for us to understand when we are out of alignment, right? When we're out of our center, when we've moved from that neutral space that helps us to function not only in an optimal capacity, but allow the power and the essence of God to flow through us, right? So what tends to happen if we are making decisions based off of emotions, right? What tends to happen is this, okay? Our judgment becomes cloudy. Our ability to open ourselves up to the truth also becomes cloudy. Somebody's outside cutting grass the moment I got on here. So I apologize in advance, guys, if you can hear that. But the reality is the moment we allow emotion to cloud our judgment, to cloud our ability to see things for what they are, I always ask myself the question, Father, help me to see things, situations exactly as they are, not as I perceive them from a deep emotional state of being, right? And I always take the time to really understand, like normally I will wake up and there's an emotion that I have to kind of deal with and process so I can move through the day without feeling like I'm in a position where I'm just straight up biased and not seeing things clearly, right? So for the longest time, I always, would be emotionally biased in a lot of the things that I did. And I found that the decisions that I made weren't as expansive as I thought that they could be from an overall perspective. Because see, another thing is when you're making decisions and you're dealing with situations where you are apt at seeking and finding the truth, actually seeing what is, you are benefiting not just yourself, you're benefiting everybody around you. You're benefiting everybody, who is involved with the thing at hand. And so one of the most important areas I find that this works really well is in relationships, right? A lot of times relationships fail because people say things that they can't take back, and they say them when they're during the heat of emotion. I've always taken the opportunity to step away when I begin to know that emotion is welling up within me and there's nobody out there other than maybe a parent or a sibling that can really attack you from an emotional standpoint and really get you revved up. And when that happens, it's not a problem that it does happen. What has to happen is this, okay? What has to happen is when it does unfold, you have to take a step back. When it does unfold, you have to ask yourself, okay, what is the situation at hand? What is the truth of this situation and how can I get to it? First things first, remove yourself from the situation always, right? Because if you don't, you're going to wind up doing something that, like I said, you'll just regret it down the road. And we see this all the times. I think of situations where, like, you know, there's been riots and looting and stuff like that, where emotion flat out overtakes people. And an interesting situation here. Okay. So I'll two instances, right? One kind of recent and one kind of back in the day. So Rodney King, if you're not familiar with Rodney King was physically abused by police officers. And when the police officers were taken to trial, this is in Los Angeles in 1992, 93. When the police officers were taken to trial, what wound up happening was they were acquitted of any wrongdoing. And so it created such a powerful uproar and emotional just fire of fury, for lack of better words. It created such an just an enormous amount of anger that everybody in the African American community in South Central Los Angeles, or what was it, Watts? I'm not really sure. But anyway, the majority of the African American community decided that it was going to loot and riot. Now, here's how powerful emotion is. They were upset at something they felt was racially driven, yet the emotion was so strong it did not stop them from looting and rioting and vandalizing minority establishments, minority businesses, minority, restaurants. Like the anger, the frustration was so strong. The emotion was so strong. People weren't thinking clearly, right? They were robbing, stealing, looting, trashing African American businesses, right? And you look back at this, and the same thing happened with the Mike Brown case in Missouri when the cop killed him. He wasn't armed or anything like that. And it makes you wonder, because the people decided to loot the very neighborhood of the people that were supporting them in the community. They decided to tear it to pieces. And so the thing that got me was, okay, why would you abuse the establishments of the people that are trying to help you? Blind rage. You ever hear that term? Blind rage, blind emotion, cloud your judgment. Star Wars, one of my favorite movies ever, like movie series, just everything about it talks about how with Jedis, they never get clouded by emotion. They never get clouded by, rage or anger or lust or anything like that. But the dark side is on the opposite side of the spectrum. And with the dark side, right, what winds up happening with the dark side is they fall into that stuff and they wind up being just like the looters and the vandalizers, where they're just kind of acting off this blind emotion without really knowing that there's always consequences to follow after the fact. Now, these are extreme situations, but it gives you an idea, right? It gives you an idea of what it means to be able to have situations when emotions kind of basically take charge, right? So I look at those two instances, and there have been many more over the course in history and time, but I look at those two situations and I say to myself, I look at my own life, right? And I say, every time I'm overwhelmed, with emotion. Whenever I got to perform, if I'm overwhelmed with emotion, I know without a doubt I'm going to suck, because emotion makes me go in my head. Emotion makes me block the essence of God that can come through me and do the most amazing job, period. It makes me rethink and calculate about certain things, and I just don't do a good job, right? When I get emotional as it relates to money, when my emotions get involved with my money, guess what happens? I make bad decisions. Not only do I make bad decisions financially, but I become fearful, right, of the money that I'm using because I can't see the truth. The reality is we always want to see the truth in whatever it is that we're doing, free from emotion, because then we know what we can take in spite or regardless of emotion, what action we can take, what decision we can make regardless of emotion. And this is so unbelievably powerful to have this in your arsenal, not arsenal, but in your toolbox, right? Your mental toolbox or your emotional toolbox, because to be able to make a decision, not just make decisions, but to live your life from a place of being centered. You ever wonder why the Buddhists meditate so often, and they always talk about the middle ground, and they always but they actually succeed at being centered, and they're not easily drawn, like thrown out of their resonance to having peace and understanding and compassion. That's kind of how we want to live our lives, because we know if we're living based on that middle ground, based on that level of peace and neutrality, we are seeing life for what it is. How many times have we let emotions get the best of us and we've missed the entire situation right in front of us? How many times have we let emotions overtake us and we wind up hurting ourselves or hurting somebody else? Now, that's extreme in a lot of ways. And if you're listening to this podcast, you probably hadn't got to that place. But let it be a lesson, right? It doesn't have to be that big. It can be something as simple as, right, do I pay this now or pay this later? Well, how is emotion involved? Emotion is involved because I'm fearful that I won't have enough. Well, guess what? What's the truth? The truth of the matter is I have enough right now. Guess what? The answer is let me pay it, right? And by honoring the truth will always set you free, and it will always reward you, which means you'll pay that bill and then you'll have more than enough later on. There's so many examples we can go through, but ultimately it's just a matter of finding yourself in peace, finding yourself in that centeredness, in that groundedness, in that neutral, godlike state and essence in everything that you do. And when something pulls you out of it, remove yourself from the situation, take a few breathers, process it, see, okay, what is this situation showing me that is in resonance with the truth that I need to know about myself? Because once I find that out, I'm free. I'm free of all the hooks or clouding that the emotion can do, right? Or have towards me. I just got to take a beat, right? Maybe it's taking a walk. Maybe it's taking a meditation. Maybe it's going for a ride in the car, whatever it is. Center yourself in everything you do, especially the important stuff. Feel the emotion, let it pass through, honor it, right? But then get to a place where you know that you can make a decision based off of truth. And the truth is, when you make decisions based off of peace, based off of neutrality, based off of being the very best that you can be, you will thrive in every possible situation, no matter what it is. I'll say this, and I'll let you go. When you look at athletes, the very best athletes, the LeBrons of the world, the Tom Bradys, the Michael Jordans, the Steph Currys, the Messis, all these guys, when you look at these guys and you wonder, how do they get to be the best that they are? How do they come up big in clutch situations? It's because while everybody else is full of nerves, is anxious, is realizing that the moment is too big for them, these are individuals that are completely centered and grounded in the moment. Emotion is saved for after the business is done, right? After the clutch decision is made. right? Then emotion rushes back in. But until then, Jordan centers himself before he takes that shot. Once he takes the shot, boom, then he celebrates. Here comes the emotion, right? Brady, centered, at peace, conscious of everything, aware of everything happening around him, drives a team down the field, scores a touchdown, then the emotion comes out. You see what I'm saying? It's always a place of being at peace, of being consciously aware of what's going on right now, and more importantly, just being present and free of any emotions that can mess with your ability to see and be aware of everything. So that's a really good example. I can talk about this all day long, guys, but I'm going to let you go right now. Just remember, make every decision possible you can without being clouded by your emotions. Free your emotions, feel them, honor them, let them go, but make decisions from the middle ground. And your life, man, it takes on a whole new level. So, guys, if you have any questions, any feedback, anything you'd like to share with me, please do so. SeanG04@gmail.com, SeanG04@gmail.com, and we will catch up to you later. That is all for today. Have a wonderful day, night, afternoon, wherever you are, and we will talk soon. Thanks so much. Take care. Bye-bye.